but I have to wait till it hits. The record button isn't there anymore.
I have no idea.
Oh, it is recording. See, it says it's recording.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have no idea how Zoom works.
Well, I have been doing this before, but tonight I would have thought that how healing was a good thing. But since people can come back and see this later, I'm going to start talking. The first thing I'm going to say is that I raised 4 kids, and they may wander in and out. Oh Lordy, I think I'm 68. So my kids are all in their 40s now.
I'm 32.
You're 32? Okay, 20 minus, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. Well, a lot of my kids are in their 40s. So, okay, not all my kids are middle-aged yet, but I am old, and I'm Tchipakkan, and this show is part of the Changing Times, Changing Worlds introductory classes. These are the free classes we're putting on YouTube and on Facebook, so people can see what our classes are like. To a certain extent, how we can see what our classes are like, because this year we're going to be doing a virtual conference, and we need to learn how to do the technology. I have some good shows coming up in the future, but tonight I'm talking about the clever things that I have encountered over the years when my kids were from diapers up to moving out. On the moving out thing, this is not so much health, but mental health. I strongly suggest that you accept the fact that your kids are not you. They may be seen as an extension of you by teachers and other annoying people, but give it up. Your kids, a lot of people only have 1 kid or 2 kids, and they think that they have made the kid the way they are. No, they come that way. When you have 4 or 5, and I grew up in the baby boom, and people were having a lot of kids. We're people. We're born, we come into a family. You can damage your children by being really mean to them, but basically the kids are going to be who they're going to be, and you can teach them cool stuff, or you can leave them to learn it all themselves, but you're not going to change what their personality is. So relax, enjoy them, and when they mess up, which they will, you can just say, well, not my circus, not my monkeys. Well, they are who they are. You take care of them as long as you can, and it never ends. When you're 60 and they're in their 40s, you still want to take care of them, but stop trying to make decisions for them. So both of you will be a lot happier if you do that. Treat them as though they're somebody who happens to be a roommate. Not when they're little. When they're little, they need to have a mom or a father, whatever, a parent. But when they're hurt, and they will hurt themselves, and I'm going to tell you, I taught my kids fairly young how to cook, how to cut things with knives and sew. My kids sewed at 3, used the stove at 5, used knives 4 to 7, depending on which kid it was, how long it took them to learn it. And yeah, you get the occasional burn, but if you're there, you will stop them from having a huge disaster and dumping a pot of boiling oil on themselves. They will get a small burn, and you put some aloe on it. And there's another thing, I learned this in a Foxfire book, and Foxfire is a wonderful series of books talking about the folk culture of the Appalachians. And I heard about it, and it sounded really stupid, but I figured I could try it. All I would have to lose was my dignity. And since I don't have much of that anyway, what the hell? So assuming you have a burn, somebody burned themselves, say on your hand or something, what you do is you go to it and you suck the fire out. You go and you picture all the heat coming up and spit it. Figured I'd try it, see if it worked. It worked. Cool. Not when I said I got out of foxfire. Other things that you can put, keep an aloe plant, put aloe on it. That's very good for sunburns. Here's something I haven't heard anybody else say, but I know because we've worked it ourselves. You can put up a sunscreen. Now, my youngest got a bad sunburn when she was 16 and has been solotropic ever since. She just avoids the sun, and she is now what my sisters would have called fish belly white all over. It looks like she's wearing white hose when she's just got her legs naked. She just stays away from the sun, and she uses SPF 75. But if you have done any energy work, if you have taught your kids to do energy work, and please teach your kids to do any energy work, you can put a shield around yourself and as sunblock. Put up a shield. Just, use whatever imagery you want to use. Say, shields up, Mr. Sulu, and picture a shield up, stopping the UV. Let in the other light, but stop the UV from the burning rays. It seems to work. I've been using it for about 20 years now, and I've only burned a couple times when I forgot to put it up. This is the truth of every prayer, every spell, whatever. The one that is the prayer that isn't answered, the spell that isn't cast, is the one that doesn't work. Now, sometimes you do it wrong and it doesn't work, or it works weirdly, but if you don't do it at all, it's not going to work. So you might as well give it a shot. The other cool thing, and this is very, very cool, you can do the same thing for bugs. Put up a shield. Teach your kids to put up a shield, and the bugs won't go around them. Now, there are other things for bugs. One, the more sugar you eat, the more attractive you're going to be to bugs. Two, they like floral stuff. And but when you get a bug bite, here is the first herbalism I teach children, and I teach several classes for children. This is plantain. This is a great big old one that's been growing up since. This is a fairly young one. Now, the key thing that you want to look for in plantains, look at those big ribs on the back. That's how you know that that's plantain. And they grow in florets, like a little circle around, and then you get a bunch of them. They are often found in lawns, in driveways. They try to eradicate them in lawns. Oh my gosh, why? This is nature's Band-Aid. This is, you rub this on a cut and it stops the bleeding. If you put it on a bee sting, really, trust me on this one. If you put it on a bee sting or a bug bite, it stops itching, it stops stinging. I have seen so many people, you rub it up, they put it on and they're like, it actually worked. Because people are taught not to expect herbs to work, and they get, wow, it worked. And so they teach other people, and they keep spreading, and then the kids will come in and they won't have to come in, because they can just go out and find themselves a plantain and put it on there. Another thing I have in my little pile of weeds here, I have in case nobody ever showed you, and somebody should, there's a lot of things out there that are leaflets 3. You probably heard leaflets 3, let it be. This is poison ivy. And what part of it will give you a rash? The leaves and the stems and the vine that it grows on and the roots. They will all give you a poison ivy rash, unless you use this lovely little fellow. which is called Touch Me Not or jewel weed. And if you look at it, you can see that it has a big fat, well, they're kind of young now. They'll be a lot fatter in the fall. And that's why I was willing to touch the poison ivy to show it to you. Here's see the stem is kind of hollow. Can you see that? I don't know. But it's also pulpy and soft, and it's like a sponge, and it's full of juices, and I'm gonna put that on me. And the cool thing about jewelweed, what you do with jewelweed is you find some, and this is the cool thing. Nature puts a remedy near the problem. Rub it up on and rub it on yourself. And you got, see this massive goop. And the juices of jewelweed neutralize the oils in poison ivy. This is not to say they make the itching go away. It does, but it neutralizes the oil. The thing about poison ivy is the part that causes the itch is an oil. It's present in what looks like dead stems on a tree trunk or on a stone wall that you crawl across. It's in dead of winter, poison ivy, you can still get a poison ivy rash. But in jewelweed, this poor little fellow here is, now look at the shape of the leaves, and you can see they're kind of a grayish green. Now, look it up on the internet and you can find the picture of the yellowish flowers. In August or so, it starts growing these pretty little yellow flowers with spots on them, or orange flowers. I get orange around here more often. And then those turn into little pods that look like teeny tiny green bananas, about, okay, wide as your thumb, as long as your thumb. Those things, they call them touch me not because if you touch them very lightly, they explode. I saw a bee come and sit on one once and it exploded under him. It was very funny. We all laughed because we're cruel. But those are a lot of fun. And if you touch them carefully and catch the seeds you can eat them, but catching them is hard. But it's a great way for kids to spend the August afternoon. Tastes like walnuts, I'd say. But jewelweed, a lot easier to find once you know what it looks like, starts growing after the last frost, and it's dead at the first frost. It turns black almost overnight. But this is where we started making ointments, and I'm going to tell you how you can preserve the jewelweed so that if you get poison ivy in the middle of the winter, you can still make it go away. Take jewelweed, get a jar, an old peanut butter jar, whatever. See, I've got the roots right on it. Knock off the dirt as much as you can, but don't worry about it. Stuff it all into the jar till you've got a jar full of weeds. Push them all down real good, mush it good, pour olive oil over it. You could use almond oil, but a lot of people are allergic to almonds, so don't do that. And besides which, olive oil is cheaper. And so if you're just a small family, you might need only a 1-cup jar. We tend to make it in half-gallon jars because we give it to a lot of people. We will pour it in jar. We will put it in cans and give it to EMTs. I used to give it to the school nurses because they could give it people. This stuff, okay, so you've got the oil, sit it in the sun for 2 weeks. Pick it up every day. Make sure that because of those stems are hollow, it will release bubbles gradually, and that will put airspace up at the top of the jar. You want to put more oil in so that you don't get any, because then the plants that are sticking out from the oil can rot, and that's gross. So you don't want to do that. So you got to keep checking it and put more oil in to keep it covered. After 2 weeks, take out the old, disgusting, greasy plant material. Squeeze it out. I suggest you put it in an old rag, or you can be a purist and use a nice sterile piece of cheesecloth. Squeeze it all out, throw it away, put it on the compost. Then you've got oil, you've got jewelweed oil, which if you put in a bottle, you can use against poison ivy. If you want it more convenient to use, melt in some beeswax. Find beeswax where usually craft stores. I like to put in about a tablespoon, 1 to 2 proportions. Put in as much as you like. Sometimes I make it harder. I find if you make it into, you put a lot of beeswax in, then you can just cut it with a wire and look like a bar of soap. If you like it to be really soft, you can put it in a jar or a can, then don't put as much beeswax in. Take a drop once you've been, when you're messing with it, take a drop, put it on a cold plate, and it'll harden up and you'll see how thick it's going to be. You can rub between your fingers. We call it green goo. And to my surprise, after we had been passing it around, people say, we like this stuff, you can put it on anything and make sure. Well, sure, if you melt beeswax into olive oil, and you can put almost any plant stuff in it, and you will either get the good of whatever the plant you're using, or you will, just the beeswax and olive oil will probably help your skin. But that is making an ointment. You can do it. I'm telling you, all you need is a jar, and if you have some, then find some beeswax and put it in. And what you would probably need to put some heat to melt it. Yes, yeah, that would be necessary. Sorry, but it's not rocket science. Everybody can do it. You can do it. Your kids can do it. And then when you've got that, then you can put it on there. And the surprise that I found out was somebody said, yeah, I put it on my athlete's foot and it went away. And I looked up in my herbal, and yeah, it's down there as a remedy for athlete's foot, which I hadn't thought of because I wasn't worried about it. So athlete's foot, and another remedy for it. So but I tend to think of things that my kids would get into. So you want to have a cut. Where'd it go? If you can find some and grow some, this is a comfrey leaf. Comfrey, it's kind of fuzzy. I don't know if you can see on the back. And it's kind of furry, fuzzy, and this stuff stops wounds. It's a wound healer. The key to using comfrey, you can put it on any scratch or open cut. It will help it to heal. It'll help it knit together. Midwives have been using it, and they're always very careful. Make sure you've got the lady parts all lined up the way they're supposed to be, because it can make them heal whichever way that they are together. The key in putting it on wounds is make sure that you get the wound completely cleaned out, because it could close up over and keep bits of dirt inside, and you don't want that to happen. So cleaning is a good idea. But for kids, just putting a little plantain, keep the kids on the plantain. Plantain will do it. You might use it on the kids. There are other herbs that you might want to get into. They will also work veterinary, like if the cat gets in a fight, and you can put something on if it gets infected. Herbs that, most of the ones that people consider herbs that they don't want to have in their lawn, the dandelion, the burdock, the nettle, these are all herbs that suck the poison out. These are cleansing, what they call drawing herbs. You chop it up and you kind of mush it into it, then you put it on the wound, and then you use a piece of cloth to tie it on, and it pulls the poison out. It helps take care of abscesses and other things that have infections in them. And first clean the wound. That's a Hohner precept. It's like, first take the nail out, If there is a problem, remove the cause of the problem first. Then go on and move the, and then close it up again. But there are many, many things. So those are the first herbs that I teach the kids is the jewelweed against poison ivy, and the plantain, which is good for almost anything. And now, if you have nettles in your area, and if you've ever touched a nettle, if you just brush it lightly, you get this horrible stinging. But if they say if you grasp it firmly, you don't. I have tried it several ways, and I have never managed to grasp it such that I don't get stinging. But it's less stinging if you grasp it firmly. That may be what they're talking about. I don't know. But near where the nettles grow, you will find dock. And dock leaves, if you rub them on a nettle sting, make the fire go out. The remedy is almost always growing near this thing that's going to hurt you in some way. But when it comes to kids and herbs, that's what I do. I also teach them wood sorrel because it tastes sour like pickles and kids love to snack on it, and it's safe. And it's always nice to show the kids what's safe. Because the beginning, get them curious. Teach them that not everything is safe. You don't want to be snacking on any mushroom to see what will happen, because some of them will make you quite ill. But that is the basic stuff of herbs. Unless you want to get into more adult stuff. If you have, for instance, diarrhea, which we all love to not talk about, here's something that you may or may not have on your shelf. SCAers often do, because the bottle is so cute. And this is Chambord. It's a blackberry liqueur, and some people like to drink it. The thing is, this is a really good blackberry is a remedy for the runs. And so if you have the runs, you might want to take your Pepto-Bismol or your Imodium, or you could take some of this and it would probably help. If you want to treat a baby with diarrhea, you would brew up some blackberry leaf tea. If you want to give somebody something that is an adult who has a really bad case of the runs and you're worried about them dehydrating, you would do the roots. Flowers and leaves, you pour boiling water over to make tea. If you have roots, stems, or seeds, those are hard, so those you will boil. And the difference is that they call one a tisane and one a decoction, or one an infusion. We pour the boiling water over it as an infusion. And if you are mixing them, and I think that you probably shouldn't if you're just beginning, if you use one ingredient at a time, then you find out how they work. Then you can get more comfortable with them. I was personally quite surprised that white willow bark didn't taste nasty. I mean, if you swallow an aspirin and didn't use water, it really kind of burns. Willow bark tea isn't bad. I kind of figured it would be like chewing on an aspirin, and it wasn't. Coltsfoot. Oh my goodness, coltsfoot. Coltsfoot is a wonderful thing. It tastes like leaves. It tastes like herbs, but to me now, coltsfoot tastes like I'm about to get better, because I tried it once because I could get some coltsfoot and I couldn't get to the Sudafed, which is what I would have gone for. And it cleared me right up, and I didn't get drowsy. I mean, Sudafed will make you drowsy. Same stuff's in that as in what they use for to sedate you. So, don't want to get drowsy? Use the coltsfoot instead. We love coltsfoot. Coltsfoot is so cool. Another herb that you might think of is mullein. You can see them. They have these long stalks. Boy Scouts use the stalks to make torches by dipping them in molten wax. The leaves are great big, about that big, like you can't tell. Yes, if I had it right up near to my head, yes, it would be about that big in your head. Leaves in a circle around the bottom, and then you have this tall stalk, and at the top it has little tiny yellow flowers. Now, if you pick off the yellow flowers and you stick them in oil, then you will make the ear oil that people would put in eardrops to stop the earache. But the leaves, big fuzzy leaves, those are great for bronchitis and anything that's got crap in your lungs. And if you if you burn it, and so you could put it in a pipe, or you could wrap it up in some cigarette papers or whatever and smoke it. You get that stuff, or you can put it on a piece of charcoal on a dish and inhale the smoke. You get that in your lungs, and you had better be either right beside a sink or a toilet or on the back porch, so that you will be hawking up great lumps of crap out of your lungs, so that you are able to your lungs will be clear again. It is a really, really good expectorant. So it's just a wonderful thing. You can't really do that with little kids, but let's hope they don't get that full of mucus. Kids. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple things that I carry with me in my purse. I carry, these are things I say don't leave home without it. One of them is Rescue Remedy, and the other one is Arnica. This is homeopathic, and they, in many drugstores and a lot of health food stores, will have these little bottles from Boron, little blue bottles. And when you take it, and let me show you. You turn the top, and out come these tiny little pills. Usually you take 2 or 3 of them. You usually don't touch them because it's the energy. There, you can use my fingers for scale to see how tiny those are. And I'm just going to have to throw that one away because I've touched it. The way they make homeopathic things is they take a substance and they dilute it. They will take something, if they were making something for instance, apis, which is bee, for a bee sting, and I have used that. I had used it for a hornet sting once. My legs swelled up. You couldn't tell the difference between my calf and my ankle. It was just all one big tree trunk thing straight down. There was no ankle, there was no knee. It was just a big sausage. And I took some apis, and the swelling went down. So great stuff. But arnica is good for bruises. If you walk behind your car and bark your shin on the trailer hitch, if you go around to a trailer, if you fall down and if you think you're going to bruise, pull out your arnica, take a couple of the pills, and you don't bruise, and the bruises go away faster. And if you were in a car accident, you might very well. Depends on how big the issue is, but for most bruises, it won't happen if you take the arnica. And there are other homeopathic things. I think because each family tends to have their own things, type of illnesses they attract, probably because we are hereditarily linked, and therefore if the parents have a weakness, then the kids are more likely to have it. So the family tends to get that type of illness. Bruising is about where mine goes. Oh yes, and the kids wanted me to say they like these better. The Rescue Remedy, you take it, and I would usually put it in water, and kids didn't like having it, but you have a little dropper, and then you put 1 drop or 2 drops in your glass of water and say, drink that, kid. Well, that all by itself may. give them a little chance to breathe. But rescue remedy takes some of the trauma away. The kids calm down. And yeah, you could say, okay, maybe it's that you're calming them down, you're giving them attention, whatever. I would put it in the water of a traumatized farm animal. We had ducks and chickens and pigs and things. Put it in their water and it would calm them down. They would heal faster too. So anytime you're upset, then you can take that and the rescue remedy will, you no longer be hysterical. And isn't that lovely? But the kids like it. Like this is a spray, and so you can just go, you got it in your mouth. You can also drip the rescue remedy right on your tongue, but it stings a little bit, probably because I think it's got some alcohol in there. And my eldest, very fond of the pearls, and you can see how tiny they are. Very tiny. Let me put my finger so you can see how tiny they are. See how tiny? And those are rescue, and it's basically the same thing. You pop it out and you put it in your mouth or their mouth, and it goes, and that helps. I would refer to it as a chill pill, but not in front of the kid who's hysterical, because telling someone to take a chill pill, not so much. Bach, who made up rescue remedy, also made, I think it was 16 other remedies. We got, this is elm, this is cherry plum. Each of them addresses a certain problem in the way you look at life. If you are taking too much on yourself, if you are judgmental, if you are insecure, if you have fears without foundation, that type of thing, you can, they have a thing for it. And basically you read through the characteristics and see which one matches you, and you can take a few drops. But the rescue remedy is the one that I just recommend every family for their kids, because when a kid is exhausted and tired and in pain, especially in pain, it helps them calm down and deal. Now, aside from that, if you have a bee sting and you can rub the right plant on it and make it go away, that's cool. If there is nausea, I've got another thing here that we discovered. Charcoal is good for cleansing you, clearing. It neutralizes. You got some poison in that you don't want to vomit out, or you don't, if you think the kid would be more traumatized by barfing it back up. I'm not particularly upset unless it is completely out of control. If you got something that's making you sick and you throw it up, good to have it out. If somebody has diarrhea, unless they're getting dehydrated, flush it and then give them more liquid so that they will stay in. Here's another one for if you are getting leg cramps. Now this is more for the adults. Drinking quinine water, tonic water with the quinine in it. It's got to be real stuff. That'll help your leg cramps from not getting to you. You have using the technique of, I was explaining homeopathy, they dilute it. They'll put the bee stinger in water, and then they will soak it there, and then they will take 1 tablespoon of that water and add it to 10 tablespoons or 9 tablespoons so that they have 10 tablespoons of water, and they will shake it, which they call percussing, and let it sit for a day, and then they will take 1 tablespoon of that and they will put it in 9 tablespoons and percuss it and let that sit for a day. And each day it counts. And so when you've diluted it 10 times, then they call it 10x. 6x is usually enough to neutralize something. If you get up to 30x, that's the more you dilute it, the stronger it gets. I don't know why. This doesn't make sense. As my husband said, it makes no sense whatsoever. It's 0 parts per billion. How could it possibly have any impact on you, except that energetically, the energy of the medication goes into your energy field and it changes it. You can get, they also sell some generic ones, and you can go to some varieties of allergists that will use the same type of logic, and they will take and they will neutralize it neutralizes the allergens so that your kids aren't reacting to the laundry detergent or the dust or the pet hair or whatever. And allergies really can trigger something that makes kids not be able to control their actions. If they're at a writing level, get their handwriting sample, suddenly their handwriting gets good, whereas it was erratic. They couldn't draw circles or squares, and suddenly they can follow instructions. They can sit still. Wow, this is amazing. I am a large proponent of nutrition. Make sure that your kids are getting what nutrition they need. And the thing is, we all process. Right now, I'm dealing with the fact that when you get older, you're not as efficient at getting the nutrients out of food as you used to be, which is a pain. But so you have to eat less calories and more nutrition. But there are nutritional deficiencies, and people assume that if you're living in America, you're getting plenty. Well, you may or may not. The rescue remedy you can get either online. I know you can get it from you can get it from Amazon. You can get it. You just look up rescue remedy on the internet. You can probably find some place that sells it. Health food stores usually have rescue remedy. So, but yeah, it's a lovely thing. Okay. Yes, that was a question from the audience. Yay, I like that. But yeah, you can probably I know you can get it on Amazon and lots of other places. So, what else? So yeah, I like rescue remedy. I like arnica. As I say, I don't leave home without it. Charcoal, good for neutralizing if you've got just a touch of something that is making you ill, you can use charcoal to absorb and neutralize the stuff. I'm very big on neutralizing. It's like I want to neutralize the poison ivy oil, not make the itch go away. We have only had our green goo not stop the poison ivy once, when somebody used it after they had poison ivy for a week and it gotten into their system and it gotten into their bloodstream. And at that point they were on steroids. And no, at that point, it's not the oil anymore, but the stuff will get on you. It will get on your clothes. It will get on your boots. A friend of mine took his granddaughter into the woods and said, immediately put your clothes in the wash with strong soap and take a shower and use soap all over. And rather than putting her clothes right in the washer, she put them on the chair beside the washer, and her sister came in and sat on it in her bathing suit, which got all over her thighs, which then rubbed together and got it into places you do not want to be itching. So yes, this is why they tell you that for poison ivy, you can just use a strong soap, because it's an oil and soap will get oils off. But if you can neutralize the poison, do that. I strongly like using, there's something called acupressure, which is like acupuncture, that the energy that flows around your body takes certain paths. And if you and they have books where they show, and if you have the little places, like the place that's right here, if you shake your hand like this, where it touches, that's one of the key points, and you push that. Always push them both sides, unless it's on the center line. If you're pushing on, and usually most of these points will, so look up Jijo acupressure, and basically simply by poking on these points, wherever they are, they will change things. I looked one up, you know, the kind of head cold you get where you can't breathe, you can't go to sleep because if you lie down, you will drown, you can't breathe. I had learned about acupressure earlier that year, and I said, wait a minute, where's my book? And I got up and I looked at the book and I poke, 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 poke. And what you do is you poke it, poke, 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 poke in whatever the place is. And there's spots all over your body for different things. And it will, about 15 minutes later, my head was as clear as a bell. I heard this kind of snap, crackle, pop in my ears, and my sinuses cleared. I talked to people who've done thing and an infection. They had a fever of 102, and then they pushed the points on their ears and on their whatever, and then they got to the emergency room and they were fine. Isn't that just the way? But my kids hated it because when you're pushing until you're really sticking it in there, and if it isn't making it go zing, ow, that really hurts. Yes, it can clear up earaches. It can clear your sinuses. It can cut infections and fevers, but the kids are not really fond of that one because it hurts. I like it because it takes care of some things without a trip to the doctor. Look up acupressure. A lot gentler are the various energy healing things. You can learn Reiki. You can learn RúnValdr. You can learn therapeutic touch, quantum healing. There's so many variations on it. The basic thing is humans have an energy field. If you put energy into, more energy into it, it's going to heal it. You don't want to put a lot of energy into something that has too much energy. That's like putting, stuffing too much grain in a bag. It might make it pop. But you do want to, as a matter of fact, that's the other thing you can do with, a lot of people will make this mistake when they learn Reiki, because you put the energy in. A sick cell or a sick cluster of cells that could be like an organ often will heal if they're given enough energy. On the other hand, if there's sometimes there's a blockage that's keeping, that's what those spots are that they show in acupressure and acupuncture, is they're getting the blocks so that you can flow, that the energy is supposed to throw through your body and around your body and up and around, and that's taking care of blockages. You could have too much, you could have too little, putting more in, that's really good. I mean, things your body wants. It wants nutrition. It wants it wants energy, but you don't want to. Sometimes you have too much energy. That's where you get into something that we call grounding, which is you get too much energy, and your kids might get this sometime. You can teach them to put their hands on the ground and push energy. Just imagine, and kids are good at imagining, all the energy coming down their arms and going into the ground and into the ground and into the ground, and to get the extra energy out. If they are feeling as though they are not doing well, you can teach them to ground, pretend they're a tree, stand there and feel the roots, the imaginary roots going down into the ground, feel their branches growing up out of them and going out and reaching to the sky, and they can collect energy from the sky the way trees will take in the CO2, and they will be nourished by that, and you can feel the healing energy coming up from the ground like trees pull up the water from the ground to live on. teach your kids these type of things, and they will start using the energy. And if they hurt themselves, they can then put, their hand on it and feel the energy go into the healing and make the pain go away. It's very cool. I've taught kids to do that. It's like you will heal faster if you think, feel warm, healing energy going in, feel it warm up a little bit. The energy that comes from us, especially when it's coming from a place of love. This is why you can, a mother's kiss is just such a great boo-boo healer. It works. It makes the pain listen. When I was back having babies, they said that when the husband is there during labor with the wife, it cuts the pain in half. And I was like, yeah, how do they measure that? And then my poor husband around 4 a.m. fell asleep. And the next contraction that came along is like, whoa, okay, now I know how they measured that. And it's like, okay, you're going to wake up. I'm sorry. If I'm awake, you're awake. And yeah, so that was that one. Being with other people, feeling other people's love can reduce pain a lot. So even when you're sending, and if you're sending energy to someone, you can learn techniques like therapeutic touch. You can learn healing. You can put these, you can touch somebody and have the energy, or even in some of the techniques, they will say they will just go from above and you're not even touching. Humans have energy fields, our fields interact. You can do it whether you've been trained or not. Just knowing that the energy is there. And if you need a little bit of the beginning, what do is put your hands together and just feel almost touching and feel the energy go between them. And if you start pulling them apart, and then you can feel the energy between them. And then sometimes you can get somebody else, put your hand in there. Can you feel that energy? And like, oh yeah, I can. These are the kind of things that will raise children to be powerful human beings. I don't, we sometimes talk about being psychic, but everybody, humans are psychic. They're the ones that aren't manifesting are blocked. Now, not everybody has the same talents. Not everybody has the same abilities. Some people are really, really good at healing. Some people are good at music. Some people are great athletes. Some people are great talkers. I hope I am one, but because I sure do like it. I get excited and I learn something new and I want to pass it on to somebody else. So, but there's so many things that you can do without taking lots of esoteric classes, without getting degrees. You can heal your family. You can heal specific things like rashes. Just, try putting a little ointment on it. I say, you want your first herbal book? Peterson's Guide to Medicinal Plants. Go out and find out what's growing near you. I'm going to say it again. Peterson's Guide to Medicinal Plants. Go to your bookstore, go online, find it. Find out what's growing near you. What grows near you will be what you need. Here's another one I'm going to show you. This is a form of Artemisia. This is mugwort. And suddenly it started growing all over our yard. And I was like, I wonder what this plant is. So I went in and I looked it up in the Peterson's Guide. I was like, what's it good for? It's good for insomnia, anxiety, indigestion, and I forget what it was, something else that most of the people in our family had. And I said, oh, it volunteered because it wants to help us. For some reason, plants just come and grow. Where if you got a lot of dandelions, it's because you need what dandelions are offering you. If you have a lot of Japanese knotweed, It's one of the plants that is taking over New England. The roots are also a remedy for Lyme disease, which is taking over New England. Kudzu is really, really effective remedy for alcoholism. So whatever is growing near you is probably trying to volunteer to help you. But that's herbs. Humans intrinsically have the ability to heal each other and themselves. You can learn various techniques which will help. One of the techniques that I like is tapping. There are many versions of tapping. One of them is EFT. You may have seen people tapping, and they will go tap, tap, tap on their head and tap, tap, tap over their brows, the corners of their eyes, under their eyes, underneath their nose, under their mouth, and on their collarbones, and then under their arms, and sometimes on the hands. And while you're doing this, you're saying, I completely love and accept myself. I completely love and accept myself. I may have anxiety, but I completely love and accept myself. I may be angry with my children. I completely love and accept myself. And you're doing this, and oddly enough, this starts. Now this is basically, it's tapping those points that are useful to tap while combining it with an affirmation. And to his surprise, there was a psychologist who was working on this, believing that if you completely love and accept yourself, that will, you can look that up. They've got lots and lots of things. Look, EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. Good for, it's all over YouTube. You can find it. A simpler version is Dynamine technique from Serge Kahili King, who wanted something even easier. And he came up with, combined it with some Huna techniques because he's Hawaiian. And so he taps on the back, at the back of your neck, where the most sticky outy vertebra is sticking out there, on your sternum, on your chest, on the point here where your, you see where the fold hits? That's a really good meridian point. It's good for lots of things, but you'd have to get a book to find out but you can tap that one and tap. So once on each side, once on the front, sternum, once on the back. While you're saying, I may have, and this is the important part, I may have a headache, but I have a headache, but that can change. Not I may have a headache, because you're not going to do this if you haven't got a headache. I've got a headache and that can change. And then I want the headache to go away right now. You're giving the universe an instruction. Then you do the tapping 7 times on the back, 7 times on the front, 7 times on each side. Then holding your hands in this position, he chose that position because he hadn't found any religious group that used that position, so he wasn't stealing from anybody. And you breathe, picturing energy coming in through the top of your head, or you breathe in, and you breathe the energy going out through your feet, breathing, so the energy out your feet and in your head. Breathe in through your head and out through your feet. Okay, that was it. That takes, 15 seconds most. So I have a headache, but that can change. That's the key. When you say, I am loved, or you say, I am beautiful, or you say, I am thin. Yeah, I could say, I am fat, but that can change. Your subconscious will say, what do you mean I don't have a headache? So, but if you say, I have a headache, it says, oh yeah, that's true, but that can change. Yes, it knows that you haven't had a headache all your life. It knows you probably won't have a headache all your life. And then you give it the instruction. I want it to go away right now. Tap, 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 tap. In through the head, out through the feet. You may have to repeat it 2 or 3 times, but watch each time you do it on a scale of 1 to 10. How bad's the headache? It's an 8, okay. Tap, tap, tap. Go through one round. That can change. I want it to go away right now. Wow, okay, it's 6 now. Do it again, and it's a 4 now. Get it again, then maybe a 1. Okay, I can live with that. You keep going it down. Make it go down. The technique is called Dynamind. The author is Serge Kahili King. You can look him up. Wonderful technique, but I am now out of time. So I'm going to say come back next week and we will have another class with somebody else talking about healing, talking about divination, talking about spiritual practices. Come to the Changing Times, Changing World Conference in November. It's going to be virtual, so you will be able to see everything on your screen and the way you are, from the comfort of your own home, without having to go to a hotel, no travel expenses, no whatever. It's going to be wonderful, and there's going to be a whole, there's a second channel so people can come and talk about the cool things they just talked about, and you can, if you've been before, you can see your friends. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're good. So this should be up on YouTube as soon as I figure out how to do it. I hope within the week. So thank you for listening. Tell your friends about Changing Times, Changing Worlds. We explore things that are considered paranormal, things that are considered supernatural. And we just do them because it makes our lives easier. And isn't it nice to, if you believe in this kind of thing, if you believe in dowsing, if you believe in magic, isn't it nice to have a place you can go and talk to other people who do too, and not have to pretend that you think it's silly because you know you do it. So, and if you think it maybe works and you want to find out more, feel free to go to the Changing Times, Changing Worlds Facebook page and ask questions, and we can get conversations going there, and you ask anything you want, as long as you're polite. Anyway, this is Tchipakkan, and thank you for listening, and I guess that's it for the night. Bye-bye.